Freebies. small technical difficulty. Excuse me.
You're allowed one for a decade. Go.
Ready.
you.
Okay, thank you. We apologize for the delay. This is Maria's first time with us, and we're excited to have her. And she's filling in for our Paula Melgar, who's out this week. But we appreciate you, Maria, and your help and Matt getting us to this point. But we apologize again for the late start. So welcome to the Cottonwood Heights City Council business meeting. Today is March 21st, 2023. And we're going to get started today with the Pledge of Allegiance. I've asked our Assistant Police Chief, Paul Brenneman, to lead us. Thank you.
Those freshly whitened mountains look awfully nice tonight.
We live in a beautiful place. So item 3 on our agenda this evening is we do this about once a month, where we give the city council 3 minutes to tell us a little bit about what they're doing. So what they've been working on, and to give you an update. So we're going to start with District 4, which is our council member, Ellen Burrell.
Thank you. Well, there is a lot going on. Many of the constituents in District 4 have been challenged with the heavy snowfall, which has brought more traffic problems than usual. So I've been working with the police. I also attended a meeting in Sandy, where the Sandy mayor has taken some measures to send traffic down along Old Wasatch Boulevard, and it lines up all the way down into Draper. It's an amazing phenomena. Our police department does all they can with the backup along Wasatch Boulevard, Fort Union Boulevard, and some of the traffic is even cutting through Danish and the neighborhoods on top of the world. So, working with the staff and the police department and UDOT, we're trying to come up with solutions. We live in such a desirable place. That's the good news. And the other news is that, we have to contend with some of this. One of the roles I play on the council is that I am a liaison with the AMC, that's the Association of Municipal Governments. A representative that is a council person, council member from each of the cities in Salt Lake Valley attends this monthly meeting. And we talk about issues and innovations that other cities are doing. Our last meeting was held out in West Jordan, and it featured what can be done with a nonprofit. Harriman has tried something very interesting called, they started just last year with what they call Friends of Harriman. And this is an organization that supports the various committees that do work similar to, what we have in Cottonwood Heights, an arts council, historic council, parks and trails committee. Excuse me, I should call them committees. So anyways, I found that really fascinating. I'm going to, share that further with my colleagues here on the council to see whether that might be an avenue one day for Cottonwood Heights, although we have amazing committees here if you have served on any of them. I also am the liaison on the historic committee, and I want to really congratulate there were 3 women that were successful in getting an $11,000 grant to document 3 of the historic districts within Cottonwood Heights. And they're going to do some really fascinating historical work to really document the 3 oldest parts of our city. I also want to say that regarding Wasatch Boulevard, I often have people ask me, well, are you going to stop the big expansion of Wasatch Boulevard? Well, our last meeting with the project manager from UDOT was rather encouraging. And he is interested in some innovative ideas we have to improve Wasatch Boulevard, but not do perhaps as huge of an asphalt expansion as what UDOT has in mind from the mouth of Big Cottonwood Canyon down to the split in the road. So I have much more I could tell you, but that my time is up. So I'm delighted to be in service to all of you. And we have some really other exciting things going on that you'll be finding out from. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Burrell. In District 3, Councilmember Sean Newell.
Good evening, everyone. I have the great fortune of working on 4 different committees here for the city. But tonight I really want to highlight those that I work with that are part of our staff. We have our city manager, Tim Tingy, that serves with me on every one of the committees I'm on. I get to serve on the Arts Council, where Ann Etchell is really instrumental in helping us work to get grants for some of the arts activities that we have here in our city. A couple of those things that we have going on, matter of fact, on the 25th of April, we'll have a ribbon cutting for our, I want to call it the boulder of Cottonwood Heights with the big leaf out here. I don't know if you've had a chance to walk out there and see that, but that's something that our Arts Council did to be able to bring a centralized piece of art here to the City Hall that is going to be here as a permanent piece of art here. We also have on April 17th, the Aspen Winds. There's also plays that are put on by our Arts Council and a number of different activities. So, and also we're looking for volunteers continuously to be able to help us with some of these committees. Another one is the emergency preparedness. Emergency preparedness in our city, you may not know of all the activities that are taking place, but I get to lead out, or I get to follow, I should say, Assistant Chief Paul Brennan, and he's instrumental in helping keep in my mind the work that's being done by our city, and especially our law enforcement in that area. You know, right now he's working on some active shooter discussions with one of the local churches here. We're doing some quarterly training that involves a number of our volunteers in our community. He just graduated 18 people from CERT training, which is our Citizens Emergency Response Teams. And we can all get that type of training from our city here, which is another way to get involved. On Saturday, April 22nd, we have the Great Shakeout. Anybody familiar with what that is? It's that earthquake preparedness. And from 9 to noon, we ask that our community members get involved and participate. And it's an active opportunity to participate in that great shakeout, to be aware of how to respond if we have an emergency like a huge earthquake here in our community. We also have shelter training. What we're looking for right now are 2 representatives from each district to volunteer to be trained. And I believe they're trained by the Red Cross, correct? You're trained by the Red Cross and you get certified as a district volunteer for some of this emergency preparedness training. Also in our emergency preparedness, I get to work with Matt Ship. Where's Matt? There he is. Matt is our Public Works Director. He is the one that is taking care of all of us when it snows. He's the one that takes care of, good gracious, I got 8 pages here. And I'm enjoying sharing so much, but thank you so much. And next time I'll finish my entire list. Have a great day.
Thank you, Councilmember Newell. In District 2, we have Councilmember Scott Bracken.
This time around, I'd like to talk to our youth council, which is also one of our statutory committees. It is comprised of high school students or high school aged students in the city. They either need to live in or go to school in Cottonwood Heights. Applications for next year's group is actually open. So if you know someone in that age group that's interested in being involved in the committee, definitely point them to the website to fill out an application or get a hold of me for more information. We went the weekend before last. I took the youth council to Utah State for Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and we attended the Association of Youth Councils Leadership Conference. That weekend, there was 168 students from about 14 cities throughout Utah that were all there. We had breakout sessions, leadership training, all sorts of things there. It was a lot of fun. The kids really, really enjoy it. Some of the sessions included, I did not know there was such thing as suture practicing packets, but they got to practice on some of those to see if they might have any interest in medical response or something like that as a post high school type experience. They had other ones on engineering, designing electrical robot car type things, aerospace, and various product designs. We had some really good speakers. One was Paul Nix. He had a couple of things to tell the students, among which were being hopeful is one thing, but being intentional is something different, and they get you to different places. He told a story about two people that were working on the railroad, and one was pounding in things with his buddy on the side of the road, and a train came by and stopped, and the guy in the caboose came in or called to the guy out, says, "Hey, George, is that you?" And George says, "Sure." And he walks up there and they chat and everything. And George goes back to where his friend, when he says, "How do you know the CEO of the railroad?" He says, we started working here 40 years ago together." He says, "Well, why is he up there doing that? And why are you here still pounding rails or whatever?" He says, "Well, I think the difference is I started working here for $1.75 an hour. He started working for the railroad." And that was to give the students the impression that a lot of it has to do with what your purpose and your focus is. The kids enjoy it. We had some fun. There was a dance. Even our most stoic member nodded his head a few times in beat with music, and so it was a success. But I do that. I do some other things, but we'll leave those for next month.
Thank you, Councilmember Bracken, and finally District 1, Councilmember Doug Peterson.
Thank you, Mayor. It's been a very eventful winter. Most of you know that, but between calls about downed trees, snow people parking on the streets, between power outages, and it's amazing how many things happen in different seasons that we have. Right now, one of the committees that I am on is Salt Lake Mosquito Abatement District. And I've always said that that's a love-hate relationship. They love me and I hate them. And that's some of what we're dealing with, is how important this wet year is going to be to the mosquitoes problem that we may have. And so I had the opportunity to have one of the board meetings we had. They took us through a tour through the facility. A lot of you probably don't think about what they do for us, but it is incredible. They actually raise the small mosquito fish that if any of you have any water features or different things like that, they come and free of charge, come and put those in your ponds. So if you're not on the list, I can make sure and get the numbers for you so you can get that taken care of. They also have different, I used to think there was only the mosquitoes that bit me, but there's about 60 different varieties of mosquitoes, and they all bite at different times. They all like certain times of the year, and it is fascinating. I think if you ever want to have a fun time, you can go out there. If you have a real slow afternoon, you can run out there. But I found that fascinating. I love that opportunity to be able to learn more and to be able to spread this message. Hopefully I can get something in the newsletter about that as well this week. Each of us, as you know, but there are newsletters, we have an opportunity to write about some of the things that impact each of you. And so I know that the April issue, you're all just dying and waiting for my article to come out. So now keep that in mind. I jest about that. We have the parks, trails, and open space. The other small little blurb I want to throw out there is being on the parks, trails, and open space. It's so important for us to take care of the parks we have. We do have the rec center that is contracted to help us do the major cleaning, but the micro trash and some of the other things that we find around, we're trying to get volunteers to be able to sign up for that and be in proximity to the park that's near you, that you can help us out on that. And so be aware of that. There was an article that was in the last issue, and I'm hoping to get another one for that. So keep an eye open for that. I'm also on the compensation committee, but you don't want to hear about that. That's not my most fun one. But we do have an opportunity, and hopefully you feel like you're connected to each one of your council members, because we are here to help and serve and improve the quality of life. But thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Peterson. Have you ever met somebody so excited about mosquitoes before? I don't know if I have. I think we have the right person serving on that mosquito abatement committee. So thank you, Doug. I appreciate that a lot. So in my 3 minutes, let me give you just a quick update of what I'm going to talk about. We have a lot of snow up in our mountains. As a matter of fact, on the north and south slopes of Little Cottonwood Canyon, they're measuring levels that have never been measured before in snow depth. All of that snow has to come down eventually. And so spring runoff is actually a really, really big deal. And we have to, as a city, do everything that we can to be prepared. There are a lot of factors that will play into how that snow and water will eventually get down. In a perfect scenario, we'll see gradual warm-ups where it'll come down in a measured way. That's not, we don't get to make that decision, unfortunately. Mother Nature makes that decision. And so one of the things that we are doing, and that I really wanted to let our citizens understand, we are trying to prepare for every scenario. We have amazing people. We have our emergency management Assistant Chief Paul Brenneman runs that emergency management for our city. He has as much experience as anybody around. He's been through the flooding that came in 2010 and 11 and later in 2017. We have been meeting with the county and their flood control specialists, and they are going through extensive walking streams to try to clear debris, doing everything that they can to make sure that whatever scenario happens, that we try to mitigate as much as possible. One of the things that we are going to do, you'll be getting, well, anybody that lives along a stream will be getting mailers, education to understand, hey, please keep things away from streams. Anything that could be eventually swept up that could cause dams and flooding. Our city is actually going to then also deliver door hangers to these homes as well, to make sure that they understand the importance of keeping debris away from the streams. There are a lot of things that we can do. I've asked our emergency management team, along with the county, to come up with a written plan under a worst case scenario. And like, we don't want to scare anybody, but if we stay cool and wet until the end of May and July comes and or June comes and we get 80, 85, 90 degree temperatures and the water comes down at once, we are going to experience flooding. And I've let our staff know that we want to be prepared in every situation possible, which means we want to be prepared for possible evacuations. We want to have communication channels open and ready to be able to do everything we can as a city to mitigate as much as we can the water. And that's all hope and pray that it comes down in a measured response. But if it doesn't, we are absolutely doing our best to try to mitigate this, the water that we're all grateful for that has come this year. So thank you for indulging us in some of the things that we do to try to help the city. So item 4 on our list is a citizen comment period. This is a time for citizens to address the council concerning whatever matters they desire. Each speaker will have 3 minutes. Please review the public comment procedures on the last page. If you haven't already filled out a speaker comment card, please do so and hand it to a staff member who will get it to me. When making citizen comments, we request that you speak into the microphone so that your comments can be recorded, that you give your name and that you avoid insulting language or comments. The audience should avoid expressions of support as well. The council's here to listen, but you also should not expect to engage in a back and forth dialogue. If you do have questions that aren't answered, our staff will respond to you within a few business days. We do have quite a few, so we're excited to actually hear some of you this evening. The first person we want to call up to the stand is Derek Schlenker, and I hope I said that correctly.
Lucky me, get to go first. You got it right, Derek Schlenker. Thank you for hearing us out today. I've lived in Cottonwood Heights for a year and a half. I moved from Sugar House and I work in Draper. And my experience in both those places is that everyone is jealous that I moved to Cottonwood Heights. Everybody seems to love it here. It's awesome here. I've loved my time so far. My comments are, or my comment is around the Hillside Plaza development, the potential purchase by the city. Several months ago, in kind of a large setting, many citizens were there, and there was kind of a heated debate. Our mayor made a couple, or was asking a couple questions. He asked the group, do you want to, I don't remember the first question exactly, but I do remember the second question exactly. The first question was something like, do you want to take control of this decision, or do you want to have a say in this decision? And there was a resounding yes. And then the second question was, but you also believe in property rights. And then there was this kind of like, oh yeah, dang crap, I do believe in property rights. And it really, you know, I appreciated the perspective the mayor brought to the room with that, you know, there is a property owner here, and both citizens and the property owner need to be respected. This is a very unique opportunity that Cottonwood Heights can both be the citizens and also be the owner, and therefore satisfy the desires of the people of the city, but also meet any property right obligation. I think that's super unique. It's unique that a city would have the means, the momentum, the support, and the sophistication to do something like that. It's not simple. Part of my work is going to different city council meetings. I've been to many in different cities across Utah and Salt Lake County. This is a very impressive, sophisticated group. I appreciate you all. The doing this is not the path of least resistance. The path of least resistance is having a large, heavy financially backed developer come purchase the place. That's a path of least resistance, and that is very common. That's what happens typically. I am very excited at the prospect of the city taking this, which again is not the path of least resistance. It's actually a lot more work. It would be a ton of work for all of you. But I know you're up to it. The city has your back, and the city is very supportive. I'm very supportive. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Derek. Appreciate those words. Next up, we have Jody Turgeon. I love your envelope. It says find smiles inside, right?
I hope I find smiles. My name is Jody Wallen Turgeon, and I grew up on 8655 South Danish Road. I've since then have moved a mile to Fort Union. I'm a female business owner of Cottonwood Heights, and I read a letter about this meeting tonight about my father's property that was labeled landscaped and unkept. And I just wanted to show some pictures, if I may approach you, and so you may look at them closer. May I approach? Unlandscaped and unkept, to be able to move the sidewalk to the east side of the road instead of the west side of the road, which it runs about 95% of Danish Road. Like I said, I grew up there my whole life until I moved out in my 20s. And that corner of where our driveway is the scariest driveway to pull out of. The direction of the traffic travels north to south, and turns and goes east to, or south to west. And you can't see cars coming, and then it's a total blind corner. It's at the bottom of a hill which goes up and then comes back down, and that is where you want the crosswalk. So you want the people to cross across the road to the west side or to the east side, across Daneborg, and then cross back and be on the other side of the road to continue on the west side. I think it's a lot of crossing the streets that are a concern, as well as this is a very large piece of property, like you stated, and in there, right now, I'm going to let the secret out. There's a herd of deer that live there. There's hawks that live there. There's wild turkeys that live there. And you want to take this property and make it smaller instead of putting a sidewalk on 4 driveways that are already asphalt. I'm not sure where the ethic of that is to remove untouched property, natural environment, to replace with a sidewalk. We should try to keep as a city, we should try to keep as much natural environment for these animals to be there. And it's a safety issue as well. It doesn't make sense. I'd love to talk to you more about different things. I've pulled in and out of that driveway many, many times. And I'd invite you to try it and see where you're trying to put a crosswalk. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, may I just take one moment? Ms. Turgeon, just so you know, she's referring to something that I wrote about. I want you to know, I believe I stated it in my communication. This was observations that I made as I looked at Danish Road. And I want you to know that that property is beautifully landscaped. So we definitely have had a communication glitch, and I really look forward to sitting with you, or we can talk on the phone so that you can further understand my hopes for Danish. And I want to learn from your observations, but I think I could also share some of my brainstorming and the need items that I identified. So I really look forward to a one-to-one communication with you. And again, I'm sorry if you took that in any kind of insult. I'll be able to explain it more thoroughly, you know, in a one-to-one conversation.
You may want to publicly apologize for that, because my father, that's 92 years old, that manages that property, would love to have that apology.
Yes, I will, because that was definitely not what I was trying to communicate at all.
Or is it the truth?
What's that?
Or is it the truth? That it's unlandscaped.
No,
unkept.
no, only the edge of the road, not
No,
the
it's very
property.
a natural
It's all,
environment.
there's anyways, so
Thank
thank you. Okay.
Okay, so let's Randy Whitehead.
Hello, I'm Randy Whitehead. I would like to read a couple of letters from some of the citizens in relation to the decision to purchase the Hillside Plaza property. Dear Mayor Wickers, this is from Craig and Meg Denton. We have lived in Cottonwood Heights for 32 years, residing at 2358 Cinnabar Lane. We were attracted to the city for its amenities and its palpable sense of community. We love where we live, but there was always a specter hanging over our neighborhood, Hillside Plaza. We watched it decline and knew that it would have to be redeveloped. We dreaded how that would play out. Given what we've seen in other areas of the valley, we were afraid that the redevelopment would be crammed with apartments, driven wholly by the greatest return for the developer's bucks. We've been following the process intently. We attended the first meeting with the Centerville developer and several since then. We were crestfallen by the initial proposal to erect 300 plus apartments, and we've offered our suggestions for the property. One of them being the city purchasing the acreage and developing it as a community center with mixed use. So we wholeheartedly endorse the city purchasing the property and developing it ourselves as a city. It is our last chance to build the community center / gathering place that every resident has hoped for. It's time for the specter to disappear once. and for all. I also would like to read you another letter from Becky Fulmer that lives on Cavalier Drive. My name is Becky Fulmer, and I've been a resident living near Butler Elementary for over 20 years. I am 100% in favor of our city purchasing the Hillside Plaza property. I, along with many neighbors, was thrilled when the city council voted to approve the purchase. We feel strongly that this will enable us to have a say in what becomes of this important part of our community. I am so grateful to the city council for hearing our voices and making this a priority. There's much I would say other than I echo those two comments and add my appreciation for your desire to help develop a wonderful city center that all of us can be proud of. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. Appreciate it. Kayla, there you go. Lengale, right?
Hello, yes. I live on Summer Oak Circle. I've also lived here for about a year and a half. I'm in support of the Hillside Plaza purchase and redevelopment. I'm thankful that I live in a city that would do something that's innovative, that is smart. We deserve kind of a city center where, you know, we can go to fun restaurants and have our, you know, kids do fun things. I think it's really smart to make it a public space that's an amenity that will attract people to the city, that's an asset for the city, similar to our rec center. It's one reason why you'd want to live on this side of the border versus outside of the border, because we live in a great place. I've put forward to Ellen, who's my council person, a proposal for a use for the Hillside Plaza, which is a German concept called Familienzentrum, family center. It's basically like a rec center, but for extracurricular activities, not necessarily athletic. But it could basically be like a mall with a playground, with, you know, a tutoring center, a dance class center, all those types of things that families could go to and do fun things in the city, and have lots of sales tax revenue. We don't want to build many apartments or another strip mall that will just ultimately die when the next new fun building comes along. I think it's great that we can come together as residents and decide what things we actually want to spend our money and what things we actually want to do and make that our gathering place. And I think it's a once in a generation opportunity to achieve that city center. I would also suggest, and I have requested via email, that if you want more of the city's residents and stakeholders to attend, that it would be great to have childcare at the meetings. That means across the hall, watching the kids color, so while we can comment, because I know there's a lot of people of my generation who would like to be more involved but can't, because it's Tuesday night and 7 is a hard time for kids, right? So those are my comments. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Kayla. I just saw the note, you need to go soon to relieve the babysitter too. So we'll, if you get up, we understand. You're not, you know, we won't take it personally. Jill Shumway.
Okay, thank you for this opportunity. And I did write some notes down, so I'm going to kind of read to help kind of direct my my thoughts. But my name is Jill Shumway, and I reside on Creighton Way in Mr. Sean Newell's district, which I really appreciate him and all the efforts that he makes for our district and the presence that you bring. Like, that's awesome that I see you around. I see you on the streets, and I really, really appreciate that. So thank you. My husband and I, over 30 years ago, when we were in our 20s and just getting married, we bought our first home in Cottonwood Heights. And we bought it because of the location, because of the atmosphere, because of the things we heard about this area. So we bought a home up by Bywater Park. And as our family grew and we outgrew our starter home, we needed to find a new home. But we wanted Cottonwood Heights. And we waited until we could find a place because we like this community. So we have been actually in our current home for 25 years. Of course, loving it because of all the things that we all love about this area, the location, the recreation center, the library, the mountains, the ease of travel. And though my husband and I, our work has changed, the ease of travel has stayed the same because we've lived here, which has been a great thing in our lives. Mostly though, of all the things that are wonderful about Cottonwood Heights, the thing that I love the most are the residents. Honestly, we have such good people here, and we have caring people, and we have a community that comes together. We have, there are several homes in our neighborhood that over the past probably 5 years, we have gathered and worked together to care for an aging couple in our neighborhood. It has been such a great thing. That's what Cottonwood Heights is all about, coming together, working together from different backgrounds, from different experiences, but coming together to make a difference. And it's so sad that couple now, they've both passed away, and the home is getting remodeled probably as a rental, which we all kind of miss our dear couple that we loved so much. But nonetheless, our community comes together. That's what makes us great. We've had we had a couple that moved in with their family from Las Vegas, and they couldn't believe our city. They said, we have never experienced anything like this before. We can't believe that there is some place where people care about each other. But that's Cottonwood Heights. And they were in a rental and just like a week ago moved, but they waited and waited to find a place in Cottonwood Heights. Was that 3 minutes? Sorry. Okay.
Finish your thought.
Can I just finish my thought? Please, I appreciate you considering so carefully Hillside Plaza. And I just think that with the city's purchasing that, it will help continue that unification of our community. This is a time that you can provide a legacy and a place, really the last hope for some kind of a center that can bring us together in a world that is so divisive. Let's build our community and keep it how wonderful it is. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jill. I think everybody in this room would echo your comments, the people that live in our city. So thank you. I appreciate that. Tony Glavas, I hope I said that right, Tony.
Good evening. My name is Tony Galavis. I live on 2448 East Cinnabar Lane in District 3 and very much appreciate Councilman Noel. I just wanted to express my gratitude to the city of Cottonwood Heights and the city council for approving the purchase and their consideration for the Hillside Plaza property. It's greatly appreciated. I've been a part of the residents group that's done a lot of work over the last year. I had to actually look at my phone to see when I started the text up, and it was in March of 2022. So time goes by fast. It's been a very positive venture for me personally. I've never been one for civics. My wife and I just bought a home here about 1.5 years ago, and we have a 6-year-old daughter that attends Butler Elementary. And Hillside Plaza is quite literally my front yard. So we have a vested interest. And yeah, it's been like I said, very positive. And I just wanted to say thank you to you all.
Thank you, Bart. Appreciate your comments. Or Tony, sorry. Sorry, Tony. Tom Lemko, if that's, I'll let you correct me, Tom, if I said that incorrectly.
Mr. Mayor, I was waiting to see how you'd pronounce that name. Don't try and spell it though. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. Great to take a few minutes of your time for my opinion, my wife's opinion. I didn't grow up here, but moved here well over 50 years ago in this community from California. And I can pay, along with everyone else, the compliments that go along with Cottonwood Heights. It's wonderful, beautiful. The people are very friendly. There isn't a person that I talk to, either within the state of Utah or I have family in other parts of the country, that doesn't say, where are you from? You say Cottonwood Heights, oh, what a beautiful area. So we do live in a beautiful area, and I'm here simply to, as a representative of my wife and I and our family, that we feel that we in this community want to have responsibility and accountability for how this community grows. And that said, we feel that very humbly, that we feel that the city should be in control of Hillside Plaza. We don't feel that we'd be very comfortable having an outsider for money reasons or whatever. I know contractors certainly are here to build the best they can with the money they make. But I feel that we, even of our own personal lives, want to have control over our lives as best we can. And I think in the betterment of this community, that we would want to have the city and we as public members of this community have the say on what is built there. I think that's very important rather than having a stranger or an outsider trying to tell us what to do and how to do it. So that very simply is my opinion, my family's opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Tom, Mike. Ben, yeah, there you go. Sure. Claire Geddes.
I'm probably the only one up here that's, these people have some idea that you're gonna keep that lot. I was told they're gonna sell it. You know, I've been told 4 or 5 different things, so I don't think anybody knows what's going on. I was told it's gonna be sold in 2 years, and we're not gonna develop. Believe me, they don't have the money for that. We're talking about, and I believe that it's way overpriced, according to your own tax documents it is. You know, if we go out and buy a lot that costs a lot more than what it should, it's going to be that much harder to do something with it. And I believe Cottonwood Heights does have control. That's what planning and zoning is about. And RDAs don't fix that. And I'll tell you some of the down parts about it. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't do that, but I've followed these for years and years and years. I'm somebody who's worked in government as a citizen, representing people for probably the last 30 years. And one of the things that I really followed were these tax breaks. And I could give you a thing of how much money is taken out of our schools. This is money that directly comes out of your schools. When you decide to give them a break, like on the Cottonwood, where the Canyon Racket Club is, $6 million is going to come out of the Canyon View schools. But I was involved with one that they wanted to give 125. And what you're doing too is you're pitting one development against another. Also, it says in there that this is going to be a benefit to tax. Most of the tax is going to go to the development, but I don't think you're going to get, the paper I saw said there were going to be 198 apartments at a facility that would have 52 units for, I would assume it's like where people go like to live. And there was going to be a hotel and a restaurant, and there's going to be a road that goes through there. But I don't think anybody knows what's going to be there. And you've got to find a developer to do it. I guess I'm old fashioned. I still care about taxes. In my area, believe me, you wouldn't hear these remarks. Most of us never even knew about it. The 200 are the ones that I think are driving it. They're the only ones that really knew it was happening. And that's great. I always said if everybody else wants to put their home up for it, that's great. But our taxes are about as high as they can be. So what's going to happen is when you take that tax money, somebody's going to pay for this. 16 or $14 million is a lot of money for this city to take on. I've looked at their budget. I think they're bringing in, they told me 24 million this year, and they pay out about 27. And who's going to pay for all this? I guess there's going to be a new tax. You're going to put a tax on telecommunications. So believe me, this will be paid for, but there are citizens here that pay high taxes that are retirees. They lived on fixed income and they can't afford this. If we knew what we were going to do, it would be one thing. Nobody knows. And these poor people have some idea that you're gonna buy this and you're gonna develop it for them. That isn't gonna happen. I don't know why somebody didn't tell him you planned on selling it. And I want to know what the hurry is anyway. You can do everything you want to do. You don't have to go out and buy a lot that nobody wanted. They haven't been able to sell that. That's your own sign. So how do you know you're going to get a developer in here that is going to want to do what you want to do? You don't have the money to do that. But I don't believe you're going to have that much say only on planning and zoning. But I think everybody ought to be aware of that. Have you ever looked?
Thank you for your opinion, Claire. I appreciate it. Every voice is important in our city, so I appreciate that you came and talked. I will just add the tax assessed value for Hillside is $18 million, which we all know tax assessed values usually come in low. So I'll just add that little point to that. Sally Jensen.
Thank you for allowing us to come. I really appreciate this. Much of what or the reason I'm here is also for what I received, the Burrell Graham. And I appreciate you keeping people informed with what you're doing. It was very informative. But I am here to talk about what you want to do on Danish Road. I grew up on Danish Road. I was on the ill-fated bus that the road was so narrow, it tipped over. That dates me, I know. But where you're talking about taking the sidewalk from the west side to the east side and then back again to the west side of Danish Road is one of the most dangerous curves on Danish Road. My biggest hope is that you've got my information. Please contact us. Let us help you make this. I've walked that road hundreds of times as a walker, as a child, to school, to Brighton Butler and Butler Elementary. There's a lot better ways to do. I know you're concerned about dealing with 4 homeowners versus 1, but that one is my father. And so I'm here to represent him. And even though his property is on the east side, and I understand that what you saw looked unkept. I just think that to cut into that where you already have a road or a sidewalk on the west side of the road is so much safer. I appreciate that you went and drove around and even you said you walked there and so you saw for yourself. I appreciate that very much. But I hope that you will consider the curve of that angle and where you're expecting people to cross. It's a very dangerous corner. And I know that it's much harder to work with 4 than 1, but I think we need to be equitable and safety first. Thank you.
Thank you, Sally.
May I just say that I really appreciate all the constituents that are coming to the microphone, getting involved. This is what I want with all my communications. I never want to offend anybody, but I'm really excited that people are like yourself. So I look forward to both with you and with your, with Lisa. This was all just initial. So thank you so much for coming out tonight. I really look forward to following up.
Clint Jensen.
Thank you. Unlike Ms. Turgeon and Ms. Jensen, who just spoke about Commissioner Burrell's work on Danish Road to add sidewalks, my time living on Danish Road is more recent. However, I think it's just as real. I appreciate there is a great need for sidewalks there. There's a great need to add safety. However, in addition to make the choice about whether to put the sidewalk on the east side of the street or the west side of the street, it is better and safer on the west side of the street. And if I might add one more aspect, having that sidewalk on the east side of the street is no less a taking, although it's all from one landowner, than the taking on the west side of the street, because by definition, the sidewalk is the same length, the same width, all of that. It's the same taking. So the only question is whether we're going to burden all of that taking with one landowner or whether we're going to spread it out among 4. It doesn't end, the burden, however, does not end with the taking. By Utah state law, a landowner is required to keep sidewalks on their property free of snow and ice. Sadly, a 92-year-old's going to struggle with that. And sadly, that snow removal, unless I'm up there doing it, if I can stop by If other family members there, great, we hope that can happen. But I think we're setting ourselves up for a skating rink, because I don't know how the age of the landowners on the west side of the street, but I think I can be confident saying they're younger than 92. I think they'll do a better job of clearing the sidewalk and spreading that burden among 4 landowners rather than just one. Like the others who have spoken, Commissioner Member Burrell, I look forward to working with you to refine and to add some equity and fairness to what you're doing, because it is great work and we support it. Thank you all.
Thank you. We also do want to excuse Councilmember Burrell, who has another commitment at this time. So Gary Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the City Council, for taking this opportunity to let me talk to you. I'm here to speak about the purchase of the Hillside Plaza property. And some of you might remember about a year ago when we had the meeting where we had all the 4 options, I believe, laid out for the development of that property in the city plan. I talked with the city manager and the mayor at that time about how I believe the city should purchase the land and develop it the way the city wants it developed, rather than allowing some non-resident absentee landowner through a developer that's probably not a resident as well, develop it how they want it developed. And so for me, it's really a issue of self-determination. What do we want? How do we want it developed, as opposed to what someone who's just looking at what's the optimum dollar amount I can get out of it. I can tell you, as a retired civil engineer that has done extensive traveling around the world and here in this country and communities, that I've seen many communities develop beautiful city centers with city plazas, many amenities that attract the citizens to those areas. And I've seen many cities around the world and here in this country as well, where self-determination has not been a factor and the residents are stuck with something that they consider to be an eyesore, something they didn't want. And I know that your interest and our interest are aligned on this, that we really want something that we can all be proud of. And I thank you for the opportunity to make this happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Appreciate your words. Jill Johnson.
Thank you for hearing us out. As we listened to you earlier, it was very evident that all of you have our best interests in mind. And so I just want to express my support of you purchasing the Hillside Plaza as well, because when we talked with the developer and he came up with his plan, it was very evident that he did not have our best interests in mind. So we look forward to seeing what you guys come up with, and just thank you so much for listening to our voices and using our input for the final product. Thanks.
Thank you. Al Young. Hi, Al. Looking forward to this accent. Ready?
All right, yeah, takes years of practice. I live over behind Hillside Floral, where Pistol Pete's used to be. I've watched this, heard about this development thing going on for a while. I've worked in land development for probably half my life, and it's driven by money. How do we make the most amount of money out of the smallest, or out of that space? So I'm very, very, very supportive of the city buying it. I actually have an idea for this thing, which once it's bought, I'd love to present, which is basically a copy of the Red Hills Gardens in St. George, which would have a 1-mile walking track through a bunch of gardens and water-wise gardens. So the idea is, one, you walk around, you get some exercise, and you eventually realize, hey, well, these guys don't use much water. Why are we paying a fortune for the grass at home? And then I've been a big Xeriscape fan for a long time. So Yeah, again, very supportive of it. I think it'd be a great idea. I've got plans that I could get it probably developed for next to nothing through people I know and just ways things can be done as a community. A lot of volunteer work, and I've talked to the management down in St. George and sort of got good ideas of what they did. And I used to own a landscape company, so not that I want the job or anything, but I can help make it happen. And that's I came to Cottonwood Heights because when I first started looking at Utah or Salt Lake, somebody said, "Oh, Cottonwood Heights is probably the best place to go, but you won't be able to afford it." And eventually I did buy a house, and I met Mike through that, through ringing up, asking dumb questions about, "Hey, what's this, what's that?" And yeah, I love the place. I think it's great. And that's my 2 cents worth.
Thanks, Al.
And there's a lot of other things can be done with it. I just really concerned about a developer getting it because they will do it for money. And garden would be great. There's a ton of things can be done. And it's just, now I'm actively looking for land for a project I'm working on. And I'm getting quotes of between $1 and $2.7 million per acre. So that's 10 acres, isn't it? So that's kind of, yeah, the price is expensive. It's a hell of a lot of money, but it's kind of cheap, on the cheaper end of what, plus it's in Cottonwood Heights. This stuff I'm looking at is on the other side of the freeway. So yeah, all right, cool.
Thank you, Al. Appreciate your comments. And excuse me if I did Jill Johnson, I called Jill, right? Yeah. Tad Turgeon.
Thank you. I'm Tad Turgeon. I'm a resident here in Cottonwood Heights, and I'm a business owner as well. I want to thank Matt Tripp on his work this winter with plowing. It's been excellent. His staff's out there doing it, and I think he's doing an excellent job. So I just want to call him out there. I understand the city council bought the Hillside Plaza. Have you not bought Plaza yet?
We are still currently in the due diligent phase, so we are under contract.
Yeah. I do support the plaza. I think it's a better option than anything else that was on the table, having a developer do it. I would like to know who's going to shovel the sidewalk because no one's shoveling it now. There's a bus stop there, and I heard some chuckles. It's not really a funny thing. It's like it's not being who owns that. Like they need to take care of that. But that's besides the point. Matt Ship's guys have been doing our sidewalks very well this year. If you guys have looked around, he's had equipment out, people hand shoveling on Fort Union. Brutal job. I live on Fort Union. I have a business on Fort Union, so I do it myself. So kudos to Matt's team for doing that. And I support the Hillside Plaza. I did want to speak to Ellen. She had to leave. I think there's great focus on, it's great that we're focusing on sidewalks in Cottonwood Heights. I'm a runner. I see all the horrible sidewalks. They're horrible. Our city has the worst sidewalks everywhere. They just end in places. So the fact we're putting attention on there, I think it's great. If we want to build a sidewalk, we can build a sidewalk across from Butler Middle School. And the reason I say that is because we need to keep the focus on community. Like we don't have to worry about, sidewalks on Danish Road where, we want to focus on what our school kids are doing. How are our school kids getting to and from school? Is there a shoveled sidewalk for them? That's what we want, we talk about Hillside Plaza. What's the main thing that's holding back Hillside Plaza? And it's not really holding it back, but it's Walgreens. So why did we let Walgreens come in there in the first place? Those are the questions we have to ask in this community. We look at our city center, which is 2 banks, a check cashing, and a gas station. So as we let those businesses come in, now they're making decisions for our community. We can't kick out Walgreens. We can't take it from eminent domain. They're going to be part of our new city center because we allowed them there in the first place. So thank you for all your work on this council. I think you've done a great job. I listened to your meeting earlier today. I think you guys asked the right questions. I like the communal effort everyone's going on. Well, let's keep the focus on kids, community, and when we start looking at businesses, yeah, we need tax revenue. We need We all need Walgreens. Walgreens took over every small drugstore in the whole United States, so they're the big bully on the block. We know that. But we all go there and we need them. So let's keep the focus on kids, community, and we make decisions in our community about businesses based on how they're going to affect our community. We can't get away from Walgreens now. We can't get away from that mistake. We can't use our police to kick them out. We can't give a DUI to everybody at the front door of Walgreens. So we have to build around that. So that's what we built. Thank you.
Thank you, Ted. And we will notify the owner of the property currently that they need to cover the sidewalk. Adam Tyler.
Thank you. I'm Adam Tyler, I live on Catalina Drive, just right behind Hillside Plaza. I too am in support of the city purchasing Hillside Plaza. I understand it's not a perfect solution, but I think we've kind of weighed different options. Personally, I feel like this is one where the city and the residents have more of a control on what we choose to do. In the future plan proposal, if I recall, it is stating as a gathering place, but it wasn't defined as such. I think in the last year with the I don't know if they're still currently, but the past developer, it kind of sparred to figure out what does the city want that to look like. I feel like this has more control. I think either way, we're going to have consequences or potentially a legacy that comes out of it. Whether we have total control, partial control, or no control at all is kind of my thoughts. I am in favor because I feel like it gives the city an opportunity to put something unique as a gathering place, something for children and so forth. So that's kind of my say. I know it's kind of redundant, but I just wanted to kind of state it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. Adam Tyler. Oh, did I just? Boy, I'm tired. Sorry about that. Is Sahil Oberoi here? We've asked to go later and okay. Mike Van Meer.
Okay, so I am questioning the whole purchase of the land of Hillside Plaza. I studied the tax documents provided by the city and the county. The property's land value is worth, according to city records, $1.8 million. You're gonna pay $14.9 million for blight, rundown building with a bunch of asphalt. That's 13 million more dollars that you're gonna have to redevelop. You have to demolish it and then rebuild it. That's gonna be hundreds of millions of dollars. Why do we want to go into such debt? You have $22,599,000 currently in bonds which is basically debt. You're gonna add another 14.9 to that, and then you're gonna speculate with our credit, Cottonwood Heights City credit, which is basically the residents of, to borrow more money, hundreds of millions to redevelop a piece of property that's really not very desirable. It's on a hill. The terrain there, the sidewalks, both 2300 and Fort Union, Butler Hill, are not very desirable places to walk up and down to get to or go from or drive to. There's something on your phone that's more important than what I'm speaking of, Douglas?
So I'm going to ask you to sit down at this point. Okay, so I appreciate you coming up and talking, but that's not the type of interaction we're looking
Oh,
for.
I'm sorry about that, but I felt it was rude.
Okay, so I think and that's okay. That's okay to feel there, but I think your time's done now. So
I
okay.
didn't say anything inoffensive. I just asked them to put the phone down. You don't like what I'm speaking about?
I value your opinion, and that's honest. So do we have any other comments online?
Still here. I gotta look at that.
No, there's no additional comments
No
from.
additional
online.
comments? Okay, great, thank you. Okay, I apologize for that. Come on up. Yeah, come up and state your name for us. Thanks.
My name is Bart Van Allen. I live with my backyard facing Hillside Plaza. Before I get to what to say on that, I wanted to comment on something that was done a little bit earlier. I wanted to thank the mayor and the commission for all that they do for us. And I wanted to comment on Paul Brenneman. When my wife and I moved into this area, 20-something year, 22 years ago, whatever it was, before it was a city, as soon as it became a city, I started working with the city on emergency preparations and communication. And when Paul, 10 years, 11 years ago? 10, 15 years ago? Yeah. I started working with him, and it's been, he's excellent. He does an incredible job. And we'll be here for flood watch, and I'll be here for shakeout, so I have for the last almost 2 decades. But what I wanted to mention is one of the, there's a number of things that are said against the city buying it. And I wanted just brief comments on a couple of them. One of them is taxes. I'm not worried about that because the bond system covers the actual purchase. And what we decide to do, and it is a we, because we've been through all the meetings coming up to the prospective developments so far. And I was in favor in those meetings, and I'm still in favor of the city purchasing it because we have much better control other than the zoning system. We have much better control over what actually happens. And it can be a tax advantage for the city, depending on how it's done. But a viable city center, as many others have mentioned, I think is absolutely necessary to this community. As far as a lot of people say, well, my kids can't afford to live here. That's a specious argument. It holds no weight because my wife grew up here. She grew up. Her parents lived here until they died. Her brother owns their house now. There's no way he could buy a house here without that. We went through 3 new houses. We built 3 new houses, each time scaling up until she decided we needed to move here in order to help take care of her parents in their waning years, which we did. And there's no way we could have afforded it earlier, but it was after going through 3 new homes, putting in 25, 30 years doing that, was no problem in moving here. And those that think they can just go to college and come and move in, they're not thinking in reality. They're not looking at the real world. And so I find that as just a null as an argument. But we love it here. And the other cities I lived in, Sandy, Draper, Riverton, Cottonwood Heights is far, far above the experiences we had in those. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. John Jacobs.
Hi, I recently, I just wanted to thank you guys so much for getting together and hearing everybody out. I think a lot of people have said a lot of really good stuff. I recently just moved into the neighborhood and I worked really hard to get here. And when I heard about the plaza, I just wanted to come and just support you guys in the purchase of getting the plaza. I work in construction and I see developers and investors all the time and their motives and everything. And I just think that it would be so wonderful to have something that's controlled by you guys, by the city, And I think that that just makes a complete and total difference for the residents of Cottonwood Heights and keeping it a valuable place, kind of opposed to someone else's ideas. And so yeah, I just wanted to thank you guys for hearing everyone out and voice my opinion that I'm really for you guys developing the plaza. So thank you.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it. David Burton.
Sorry that I'm running late. I had a family health emergency that I had to take care of, and but I certainly wanted to be here. So forgive me, I don't know what's been said or transpired, so there may be some duplication or reinforcement of what's been said. When the current owner purchased the hillside property, he bought it knowing what the zoning was. That zoning hasn't changed. To my knowledge, no one is resisting his developing or selling the property with that same zoning. The pushback started when there was a drive to increase the zoning density. What was being proposed was adding a major increase of housing and the inevitable nonsensical significant increase in traffic at one of the most busy intersections in the city without a financial obligation by the owner or the buyer to fund the necessary street capacity increases. If the residents of Cottonwood Heights wanted to buy a home in a non-residential apartment high-rise neighborhood, we wouldn't have moved here. When I bought my house, I worked in the First Security headquarter office and later the KeyBank Crossroads Mall high-rise building. If I had liked living in a jam-packed apartment area and closer to where I worked, I would have bought a home in Salt Lake City rather than driving all the way out here to live in a residential area. Saying that the high-rise apartments would provide affordable housing is disingenuous because apartments currently available in the city aren't affordable to those who would need affordable housing, and neither would the new ones that would be proposed to be built be economical for the people who need that kind of housing. It is misguided to talk about increasing housing density at the same time the constituents are expressing concerns about too much traffic. At the same time, the thinking that the traffic problem can be addressed by reducing lanes and changing them to bike lanes completely ignore the fact that the community is aging, which isn't compatible with the deep snow that we experience here. I don't see a lot of bicycles this time of year tromping through the snow, but that's a reality of living here. That is California skewed thinking by someone who's not lived in a snowy area. Purchasing the property would put an end to arguments about the zoning density. At that point, the city will have the authority to develop the property to benefit the community.
Thank you, David, for your comments. So seeing that, I don't see any other comment cards. I'm going to close the citizen comment period and just say thank you. Multiple times we talk about as a council the amazing people in our city, and we value your opinions and are grateful for you coming and to a meeting like this when you didn't have to. So and thank you once again. Item 5 on our agenda this evening, we have 4 legislative actions for the council to vote on this evening. We're going to start with 5.1, consideration of resolution 2023-11, approving entry into a consulting agreement for environmental support and conceptual design services. We actually discussed this item a little bit earlier in our work session. Are there any other questions or comments from the council? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve consideration of resolution 2023-11.
I'll move that we approve resolution 2020.
I'll second.
A motion to approve from
Because
Councilmember
we're on both
Bracken
sides of that road.
and a second from Councilmember Newell. Final questions, comments? Call for the vote. Councilmember Peterson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bracken,
Yes.
Councilmember Newell,
Yes.
and I will vote yes. 5.2, consideration of resolution 2023-12 is approving entry into a consulting agreement for environmental document services for a pedestrian crosswalk. We also discussed this item a little bit earlier in our work session. Any other questions or comments from the council on this item? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve consideration of resolution 2023-12.
I'll make that motion to approve resolution 2023-12.
And I'll second that.
Motion to approve from Councilmember Newell and a second from Councilmember Peterson. Final questions, comments?
So this is a potential hot signal across Fort Union Boulevard right by Bellevue.
Correct. Correct. Thank you, Scott. Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Councilmember Bracken,
Yes.
Councilmember Newell,
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson.
Yes.
I will vote yes. Item 5.3 is consideration of resolution 2023-13, amending and restating the policy for electronic meetings of the city's public bodies. We also discussed this item earlier in our council meeting, in our work session. Any other questions or comments from the council?
I think the clarification on this one, Tim, was that if there are people not actually present electronically, that it needs to be a roll call vote.
That is correct. And it's all based on House Bill 22 that was approved by the state legislature. And we're just bringing our code up to what is stated in that House bill.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to approve resolution 2023-13.
We approve.
I second that.
Motion to approve from Councilmember Bracken and a second from Councilmember Peterson. Final question, comments? And then I'll call for the vote. Councilmember Newell,
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bracken.
Yes.
I will vote yes. Our last legislative item is consideration of resolution 2023-14, approving an interlocal agreement with Salt Lake County for municipal election services. We also discussed this item in our work session earlier. Any final questions or comments from the council? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve resolution 2023-14.
I move that we approve 2023-14, Mayor.
I'll second.
Motion to approve from Councilmember Peterson and a second from Councilmember Newell. Final questions, comments? I'll call for the vote. Councilmember Peterson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bracken.
Yes.
Councilmember Newell,
Yes.
and I will vote yes. Okay, the last item on our agenda this evening is just consider our approval of our consent calendar. There is one change from the published agenda. We will not be considering the city council retreat on January 31st. We'll approve those minutes at a later time. The minutes listed are the city council legislative work session on February 23rd and the city council work session, CDRA work session, and city council business meeting of February 21st and March 1st. I will entertain a motion to approve these minutes.
Thank you, Mayor, for that consideration. I move that we approve those minutes.
I'll second.
A motion to approve and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that will do it for this evening. Could I get a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
I'll second that.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.